extinct animals alive? These videos will shock you. Buckle up for the unbelievable. These mind-blowing videos capture creatures once thought lost forever, roaming our planet once more. These rare glimpses into the past will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about extinction. Get ready to be amazed.
We always do, we have the Megatherium. This animal is also known as the giant ground sloth, and they were one of the largest terrestrial animals that ever lived on this planet. They measured in at about 20 feet in length, but they were a slow-moving herbivore, so animals didn't really fear this creature. Early humans in South America hunted this massive creature, and they hunted it to its extinction 10,000 years ago. Or did they? In the deep jungle of South America, there are so many tales about terrifying creatures who stands at 10 feet tall. They have enormous backward-facing claws and thick brown fur. All of these characteristics are consistent with the Megatherium's description, so maybe these aren't just stories. Next up, number 9, we have the mastodon. These hairy creatures are prehistoric relatives of the modern elephant. Mastodons have tusks, floppy ears, and a long nose, which is very similar to the elephant. Mastodons appeared on Earth about 27 million to about 30 million years ago, primarily in North and Central America. They typically stayed in the woodlands areas or sometimes around valleys and swamps. They apparently went extinct about 10,000 years ago, and most of the theories say that they went extinct because a lot of the scientists believe that the Earth warmed up too quickly from the Ice Age for the mastodon to adapt to, or that humans hunted them to extinction. So although they went extinct so long ago, a man named David Ingram described seeing creatures twice the size of a horse, hairy, and in the shape of an elephant. He accurately described what a mastodon would look like, and he said he saw them while he was traveling to the United States. There are even other people claiming to have spotted these creatures in modern times. Next up, number 8, we have the Japanese wolf. Japan used to have 2 species of wolf that used to live on islands. Biologists consider the Japanese wolf to be extinct. However, there are a ton of rumors circulating of people seeing them in the wild regions of Japan. These 2 wolf species became extinct in the late 1800s and the early 1900s due to rabies, loss of habitat, and hunting by humans. Despite their extinction, a Japanese wolf was sighted in 1910, and then in the 1930s, and then again in the 1950s. If that wasn't enough to convince you that these creatures are still alive today, there have been a ton of sightings in the 1900s. Skeptics believe the humans are mistaking a hybrid wolf dog for the Japanese wolf. That's definitely a possibility, but what if the Japanese wolf was still alive today? Pouncing in at number 7, we have the Javan tiger. They are a relatively small tiger that is as tall as a Great Dane. On the island of Java in Indonesia, this was the home of the Javan tiger, but as humans occupied more and more of the island, the Javan tiger was forced to move to the uninhabitable parts of the island. They were hunted by the humans so they could make more room for farming, and unfortunately by the time the government stepped in to preserve their species, the tiger was already too far gone. However, many locals have spotted Javan tiger claw marks and footprints, and they could still be alive because they are excellent at hiding and avoiding humans. Also in 1995, a Javan forester discovered a large group of these tigers still living on the island. These sightings continued into the early 2000s, and people are still finding evidence that the species still exists today. Swimming into our number 6 spot on our list, we're talking about the Plesiosaurus. This is apparently an extinct marine reptile who lived approximately 135 years ago in the Jurassic period. They have long necks, thin bodies, wide flippers, and small heads. They have very sharp teeth and incredibly strong jaws, so they're able to feed on any fish that came in their path. Creatures matching this description have been spotted all over the world in lakes and in oceans. A lot of people believe that this animal exists, and people are just calling it the Loch Ness Monster. It is actually possible that these animals survived and they're just living in the depths of the ocean where humans are unable to explore. If this Plesiosaurus still exists today, that would also explain why people have reported seeing sea dragons from around the world.
The animals on this list are gone, but not forgotten. At least not by conservationists. I had no idea some of these things existed myself, but sometimes what we think is gone isn't gone for good. I'm your host James, and today I'm bringing you the top 10 extinct creatures from ancient history scientists are attempting to bring back to life. And we're kicking off the list with aurochs. In the ancient days, there was a huge cattle species called the aurochs. They roamed around Eurasia to North Africa, but as humans came into the picture, they started disappearing. By Roman times, only the European aurochs were left, and they eventually bit the dust in 1627, gone forever. Then came the 1930s, and a couple of folks named Heinz and Lutz Heck thought they could play Mother Nature and possibly bring the aurochs back. They ended up getting something close-ish called Heck cattle. Jump to today, though, there are a few groups, the Tauros program, the Taurus project, and the Urus project, all trying to revive the aurochs. The first two are using selective breeding, but the Urus project, on the other hand, is going high-tech, using gene editing in the hopes of resurrecting the species. And at number 9 on our list is the quagga. The quagga were a subspecies of zebra on the southern tip of Africa. They were hunted to extinction, finally dying out in 1883. Now, let's jump to 1980. Some clever minds set out to bring the species back. Scientists delved into the DNA, and this was when it was first discovered that the quagga were actually a subspecies of the plains. That was the green light they needed, and in 1987 they launched the quagga project in South Africa. They chose 9 zebras, ones that shared traits with the quagga, and it brought them to a special breeding camp. They didn't stop there. More zebras were selected, each for their quagga-like qualities, and brought into the program. As the years passed, many baby zebras were born, and something amazing happened. They got results. 6 of these zebras turned out to be incredibly close to the original quagga. They weren't quite there yet, but they were similar, and they earned their own special title, Rao quaggas. Next up, we have the thylacine, aka the Tasmanian tiger. Now, this critter was like a mix of a wolf and a kangaroo with like a striped pattern going on. They look really cool. They were native to Tasmania, an island state of Australia, and they were the largest known carnivorous marsupials of modern times. Sadly though, humans weren't too friendly to them, and they went extinct in the 20th century. Fast forward to 2017, and scientists were trying to make up for humanity's mistakes. They managed to pull off something pretty amazing. They decoded the full nuclear genome of the thylacine. Andrew J. Pask from the University of Melbourne said the next move would be to create a fully functioning thylacine genome. It's going to take some serious time and research, but scientists are saying they might be able to pull it off and bring the thylacine back from the dead by 2027. It really helps with the species that they were around not too long ago. I think the last one died in like, I don't know, 1930 something, if I'm correct. Number 7 though, we have the woolly rhinoceros. As you could probably imagine, the woolly rhinoceros resembled modern rhinoceroses, but with fur. These were primarily found in the Mammoth steppe, a cold and dry grassland ecosystem stretched across northern Eurasia and North America during the Ice Age. It became extinct around 10,000 years ago. As the Earth warmed at the ends of the last Ice Age, the Mammoth steppe began to disappear, leading to a decline in the rhinoceros's food sources. Early humans also hunted these animals for their meat, their bones, and their hides. In recent years, advances in genetic engineering and cloning technologies have led to the possibility of bringing the woolly rhinoceros back. Scientists have been exploring the idea of using genetic material from preserved specimens to recreate them. One potential method for bringing back the woolly rhinoceros involves extracting DNA from well-preserved specimens, like a carcass found in permafrost, for example. Scientists could then sequence the genome of the woolly rhinoceros and compare it to the genomes of its closest living relatives, of course your standard rhinoceros, and to then identify the specific genetic differences and go from there. Next on the list we have moas. Moas were large flightless birds native to New Zealand. They belonged to the ratite group, which includes modern birds like ostriches and emus, kiwis. Some stood as tall as 12 feet, making them the largest birds on Earth at the time. But the arrival of humans in New Zealand marked the beginning of the end for these creatures. Due to the moa's lack of any natural predators, they were very easy prey. The population dwindled rapidly, and by the end of the 15th century, moas had vanished from New Zealand. And fast forward to modern times, thanks to advanced DNA extraction techniques, scientists have managed to obtain genetic material from moa remains, particularly ancient eggshells. And this allows scientists to study the moa genome and potentially resurrect them. Some scientists have contemplated the possibility of resurrecting these birds through a process called de-extinction. This involves using the preserved DNA to modify the genetic material of closely related birds, like in this case an emu and an ostrich, and create a creature that genetically at least would resemble the long-lost creature.
The Tasmanian tiger leaps onto this list at number 5. This species is also known as a thylacine, and they were a timid and a nocturnal creature who was considered to be a major pest and a dangerous threat to livestock. They look similar to a medium or large dog, except they had a stiff tail and an abnormal pouch, kind of like a kangaroo. The government set up a bounty system between 1888 and 1909 in order to get rid of these species. So people went all over Australia killing the Tasmanian tiger, and they officially went extinct in 1936. Or did they? Since its extinction, there have been many sightings of the Tasmanian tiger in Tasmania and Australia. It has been spotted so many times that a lot of people really believe that the Tasmanian tiger still exists today. Here's a clip that was taken in 1973 proving that these animals might still be alive. Take a look at this. Marching in at number 4, the woolly mammoth. This would be amazing to see this alive today. These creatures were closely related to the Asian elephants. Woolly mammoths look a lot like them except for a couple major differences. They were covered with a thick coat of brown hair to keep them warm in the frigid weather. Even though the woolly mammoth went extinct around 10,000 years ago, we have a lot of information about them because of the permafrost in the Arctic preserved their bodies and left them in almost perfect condition. But what if I told you that these giant creatures might still be roaming the earth? There are a lot of people who have claimed that they saw a woolly mammoth in the modern times. In the late 1940s, frozen mammoths were discovered with fresh meat still in their mouths, and every once in a while there are stories all over the internet of people claiming that they've seen an elephant creature with thick fur. Take a look at this video I have for you guys. Okay, so a man filmed what appears to be a woolly mammoth in Siberia. So what do you guys think? Did a woolly mammoth go extinct 4,000 years ago, or could they still be alive today? The Baiji dolphin comes onto our list at number 3. The Baiji dolphin, or the Chinese river dolphin, is the first dolphin to be declared extinct in modern times. This is just incredibly sad. It is the first large mammal species in 50 years to have gone extinct, and it was solely due to mankind. This animal was declared extinct in December 2006 due to harmful fishing practices such as the use of gill nets, rolling hooks, or electrical stunning. There were efforts put in place to save this species, but none of them apparently worked. But even though they are thought to be extinct, a Baiji was spotted in 2007 by a team of researchers. Unfortunately, there was only that one sighting since the extinction, but it's still possible that these dolphins might still be alive today. Stepping into this list at number 2, we have the mysterious Bigfoot, otherwise known as the Gigantopithecus. Their fossils indicate that they were the largest known primates that ever lived. They stood at a height of 3 meters or about 9.8 feet, and they weighed as much as 540 to 600 kilograms, which is about 1,320 pounds. I mean, damn. Now, these are one creatures I don't know if I want to be alive today, because they're pretty terrifying. However, scientists almost knows nothing about this mysterious ape. The first piece of evidence that this ape existed, it was discovered by a German paleontologist who found a large molar. Okay, so get this, it was dubbed as a dragon tooth. For years, this was the only trace of this ape, but since then, researchers have found dozens of teeth and a few partial jaws of the Gigantopithecus. It is believed that this giant creature went extinct because the forest shrank and they weren't able to find enough food to survive and reproduce. But some people believe that the Gigantopithecus survived and evolved into Bigfoot. The two creatures look very similar, and there have been many people reporting that they have seen this mysterious creature. Okay, so topping this list, in at number 1, we have the mighty Megalodon. This species of shark was the largest to have ever lived. Paleontologists believe that the Megalodon Megalodon was capable of growing up to at least 52 feet, which is 3 times as long as the longest great white shark ever. No one knows for sure what the Megalodon looked like because all that remains from the prehistoric monster are some teeth and a few vertebrae, but paleontologists are able to make a very educated guess. Originally, the Megalodon was believed to be wiped out by global warming. However, there have been many sightings all over the world by fishermen and sailors who have claimed to see this large shark. That couldn't be the great white shark because it was way too big. There was also a fossil of the Megalodon tooth found deep in the ocean, which means that they still might be living in the deep sea and occasionally they come up to the surface. I mean, after all, there's still 95% of the world's ocean that still hasn't been explored, which is insane to me. All I know for sure is that I would never want to have an encounter with these beasts. Imagine surfing and then bam, the Megalodon is right there behind you. Yeah, your lunch.
And at number 5 now, we have woolly mammoths. Everyone has heard of the woolly mammoth, a long extinct animal that some scientists have expressed real interest in trying to bring back through genetic engineering. Mammoths were these massive, hairy relatives of modern elephants. They lived during the last ice age, thousands of years ago, stomping around in places like Europe, Asia, and North America. They adapted to cold climates, with their long, shaggy hair protecting them from the freezing temperatures. Scientists haven't only dug up mammoth bones, but relatively well-preserved carcasses in the frozen tundra of Siberia. The plan is to take the mammoth DNA and insert it into the cells of modern elephants, their closest living relatives. Question is, why do this? And I guess that's the question for everything on this list. Well, some scientists think that bringing back mammoths might help combat climate change, actually. Mammoths stomped around munching on plants, preventing forests from taking over grasslands. So the thought is, if we reintroduce mammoths, they might help keep the Arctic tundra in check, slowing down the thawing of permafrost and basically curbing global warming. Number 4, the Pyrenean Ibex. This was a subspecies of the Iberian Ibex, inhabiting the mountainous regions of the Pyrenees between Spain and France. In 1999, the last known Pyrenean Ibex female named Celia was tagged and collared. A tissue sample was taken from her for future cloning experiments, but in 2000, Celia herself was found dead, crushed by a fallen tree. In 2003, scientists attempted to bring back the Pyrenean Ibex from extinction using cloning technology. This involved transferring the nucleus of Celia's skin cell into the egg cell of a domestic goat. The modified egg was then implanted into the uterus of a surrogate mother goat. Multiple goats were impregnated, but only one pregnancy came to term. The clone was successfully born, making it like history as the first cloned extinct animal, but had a number of health issues. It suffered from a lung defect and survived for just 7 minutes after birth. Obviously, didn't go how they wanted it to, but this was still a big scientific leap. The experiment's outcomes led to extensive discussions in the scientific community on the ethics, really, and practicality of cloning endangered or extinct species. Next up on the list are passenger pigeons. These were once one of the most abundant bird species in North America, but after all the hunting and habitat loss, the species became extinct by the early 20th century. There are currently efforts to revive the passenger pigeon, though, led by the non-profit organization Revive and Restore. Revive and Restore are studying the DNA of the passenger pigeon and its closest living relative, the band-tailed pigeon, by identifying specific mutations in the DNA that cause the differences between the two species. Their aim is to basically modify the DNA of the band-tailed pigeon to have traits more similar to the passenger pigeon. The resultant hybrid wouldn't be an exact copy of the original passenger pigeon, but it would be virtually indistinguishable in terms of its appearance and its behavior. Captive breeding of these hybrid pigeons is actually planned to commence in 2024, and then larger numbers of the hybrids are scheduled to be released into the wild by 2030. If this turns out to be successful, it'd be pretty groundbreaking in the realm of de-extinction efforts. We could see the same thing happening with other extinct or endangered animals, possibly ones on this very list. And at number 2, we have the dodo, the laughingstock of the natural pecking order. Like, no animal in existence, I don't think, gets dogged on as much as this poor animal, and they're not even around to defend themselves anymore, at least for now. The dodo was a large flightless bird, stood about 3 feet tall, had a plump body and a hooked beak. Because of its inability to fly and its lack of natural predators on the island, the dodo evolved without strong defenses. And dodos were discovered by Portuguese sailors in the late 16th century. Humans, along with the introduction of animals like pigs, rats, monkeys, led to the end of the dodo. The last confirmed sighting of one was in 1662. By the end of the 17th century, they were extinct. Extracting usable... Now, dodo DNA samples are scarce and heavily degraded. Extracting usable genetic material is a bit difficult. The potential is there, though. Maybe one day this silly bird will make a comeback. But finally, at number 1, we have Neanderthals. Yeah. That's right. How wild would this be? Having other species of human existing alongside us, a species where we were thought to have killed off, brought back to, like, I don't know, right the wrong, I guess? I think this would be a complete disaster. We can't even get along with each other, let alone an entirely separate species of human. The idea of Neanderthals being brought back is very far-fetched in terms of us having any real desire to do it. It would, however, be entirely possible. Neanderthal DNA exists in modern-day human beings, particularly Europeans, because Neanderthals and modern humans coexisted in what is now Europe. Not just warring with each other, but also interbreeding from time to time. So attempting to bring Neanderthals back would mean human beings would be the surrogates, which would also be very strange.
In our number 10 spot, we have the elephant bird. The elephant bird became extinct approximately 1000 to 1200 CE, and it is most likely due to human activity due to hunting, climate and vegetation change, and habitat loss due to deforestation. These birds are from the ratite family, Epornithidae, and they were enormous flightless birds. They used to live in Madagascar. They stood about 9.8 feet tall and weighed approximately 1,600 pounds. Their closest living relative is the kiwi bird. It is said that they most likely ate low-hanging fruit, even though they look like they could gobble you up in one go. I would have personally thought them to be carnivores, but thankfully not. I would be fine if scientists brought them back. Any herbivore, you know, is fine. But if they pulled a Jurassic Park on us and brought back the carnivores, then I would not be okay. In our number 9 spot, we have the Pyrenean Ibex. The Pyrenean Ibex was basically a wild goat. When people say that they love goats, I'm always a little perplexed. Why? Just why? Watch my dad will for sure watch this episode and will say something like, hey, I love goats. And yes, he does indeed. I don't know why. He's always sending me goat videos when he goes to his friend's farm. I shall never understand. Anyways, this wild goat was 5 feet long and apparently 30 inches tall. It was found in southwestern Europe, and the species died out in 2003, which is really not that long ago. I was 13. Shoot, I need to stop giving away my age. I mean, I was just born. Anyways, the last goat was born and died 7 minutes after its birth due to a lung defect. Hunting, inbreeding, and other factors basically caused this goat's extinction over time. Honestly, it's a bit of a shame that this goat no longer exists because it looks rather majestic, much more classier than regular goats. In our number 8 spot, we have the Chinese river dolphin. It breaks my heart to think that a species of the dolphin might be extinct, but sadly it is. The Chinese river dolphin, known as the Baiji, sadly went extinct in 2002. It primarily lived in freshwater rivers, primarily in the Yangtze River. The main reason for its extinction is due to the impact of humans. It was directly targeted by meat lovers, but also due to an increasing amount of construction projects on the river. The dolphin, who relies primarily on its sonar capabilities, found it hard to navigate for food because of the construction noise. Pollution in the waters also didn't help either, as well as overfishing. The males were about 7.5 feet long, while the females could be about 8.2 feet. I have a soft spot for dolphins, so honestly I really hope scientists scientists are able to bring this one back. In our number 7 spot we have the dodo bird. The dodo bird is a bird that I would probably be terrified of if I was in a room alone with it, as it's just kinda scary looking. I don't know. I'm not a massive fan of birds in general, so maybe my biases. The dodo bird lived on the island of Mauritius. The bird was about 3.3 feet tall when alive. They went extinct in the 17th century, so quite a long time ago now. What did they eat? Well, their diet primarily consisted of eating from a specific tree that was, called the dodo tree, but the scientific name for the tree is called Tambalacoke tree. They also ate nuts, fruits, roots, and small insects. So really I would have nothing to be afraid of. I bet it would totally mess me up though, cause they were, big birds. My scrawny self would just hide. In our number 6 spot we have the Tasmanian tiger. The Tasmanian tiger, despite its name, isn't actually a tiger, but was named this due to its tiger-like characteristics. The tiger only recently went extinct in the 20th century in 1936. The species slowly began to decrease about 2,000 years ago due to pressure from indigenous human settlers. They lived primarily in Australia and New Guinea. They were typically 39 inches to 51 inches long and 24 inches high. They have a close living relative, and that's the Tasmanian devil and the numbat. Not gonna lie, I had no idea the Tasmanian devil was a real animal. I totally thought it was just a lovable cartoon character, so I'm shook. Anyone else? Apparently there is hope for the Tasmanian tiger, as with recovering a little DNA, it may be possible to de-extinct the species. I hope scientists are able to.
Starting off at number 10 now, we have the Epicyon. That name roughly translates to more than dog, and you're about to see exactly why. It lived in North America about 15 million years ago, where it really was the top dog. They grew to about 5 feet in length and weighed up to 300 pounds. They had a massive head as well, even bigger than mine, and very powerful jaws. This resulted in their skull looking more like a lion's than any canine species. This big dog needed to be big because it shared its territory with ancient big cats and bears. Epicyon would have regularly clashed with them for food and territory. Now scientists think its main prey would have been the Apicamelus, a type of camel that lived in North America around that time. That's right, if you're from North America, there could have been giant dogs chasing camels on the exact same spot where you're now standing. There's a thought. Next up at number 9 now, we have the Pelagornis sandersi. You could also call this one the seagull from hell. They lived around 25 million years ago. Their wingspan is estimated to be between 20 and 24 feet. That is the largest wingspan on a flying bird ever discovered. That wingspan is about the size of an orca whale. It's also twice the wingspan of the modern day wandering albatross. Its proportions are so insane that scientists are actually surprised that it could even fly at all. It could have weighed up to 88 pounds, considered too heavy to fly. Right now the best theory is that it could fly because of its relatively small body and long wings, and also that it spent most of its time over the ocean. In fact, they thought it could only take off by hopping over the edge of a cliff. Coming at number 8 now, we have the Acrophysta. This is an extinct group of sperm whales that lived between 13 and 5 million years ago. Modern day sperm whales are known for their very large teeth, but they had nothing on the Acrophysta. Unlike modern day sperm whales, they had huge, deeply rooted teeth in both their upper and lower jaws. Modern day sperm whales only have that in their lower jaw. It had a short and pointed snout. This, coupled with the robust, curved front teeth, suggests that Acrophysta hunted very large prey, using its back teeth for shearing the meat apart. They had big heads, were very strong, and had upwards curved Y-shaped jaws. They were fairly big creatures, thought to have reached up to 14 feet in size, not as big as modern day orcas, about the size of giant dolphins. Strangely enough, a lot of scientific debate that revolves around this creature is about whether or not it had a top lip. I guess it's just going to be one of those big unanswered life questions. Moving on to number 7 now, we have the Anomalocaris. This creature is also known as the abnormal shrimp, which I love. It really is a perfect description. It's thought to be one of the first predators on Earth. That's quite a title to have. It had a large head and a single pair of large compound eyes on stalks that comprised of around 16,000 different lenses. Its mouth was made up of 32 overlapping plates, 4 large and 28 small, that resembled a sort of pineapple ring, with the center replaced by a series of serrated prongs. Looking at models of them today, they resemble small shrimps, except they were a lot bigger than that. They could be over 3.3 feet long and had 2 arms over 7 inches long that protruded from their mouth with barb-like spikes coming out. They ate hard sea creatures for breakfast, lunch and dinner. This is presumed because of the robust spines of their appendages. Basically, you wouldn't want one of these things getting their mouth around your leg and say bye to your leg. Next up at number 6 now, we have the Edestus. This shark lived from 400 to 300 million years ago. If you've watched one of our previous videos in this series, you may think it looks a little bit like the Helicoprion, the one with the big sort of circular saw teeth. Well, they actually belong to the same family, but Edestus had more of an arc of teeth on both the roof and floor of its mouth. After its discovery, scientists were baffled as to how it used this teeth formation to catch and eat its prey. For a while, it was thought that it used its teeth like scissors, bringing the top and bottom together to sort of crush and mash its prey into digestible chunks. Now though, the theory has changed. New research by Wayne M. Itano of the University of Colorado suggests that Edestus used its outwardly projecting teeth in a vertical thrashing manner. It literally thrashed its prey to death. Hey, I mean, whatever works. With quick and strong up and down movements, the shark would have slashed and cut up its prey in seconds before ingesting it whole. I think we've all eaten like that once or twice in our life, maybe when we're really hungry, but that is what Edestus did every day.
In our number 5 spot, we have the woolly mammoth. If the woolly mammoth was brought back to life and found just wandering around the world, I don't know how I would feel. Not gonna lie. I mean, first thought is to be terrified, but maybe that's dramatic because it's not like it would try to eat me because they are herbivores. Hashtag drama queen. Apparently the woolly mammoth would be about 10 feet to 12 feet high with a weight of up to 6 tons. They are the relative of African elephants and they went extinct about 4,000 years ago in East Asia. Fun fact about the woolly mammoth, the rings on the tusk tells you how old it is, just like the rings on a tree do. Apparently there is a line for every year. In our number 4 spot we have the saber-toothed tiger. Okay, if scientists brought back this species, this would be insane. But do we really need another predatory species that want humans to die? We already have to deal with, lions, tigers, and the reptiles in our government, so I think I speak for all of us when I say this isn't necessary. But would be cool to witness. The saber-toothed tiger has been a wonder to many for so long. They are famously known for their long, curved canine teeth. It could weigh anywhere between 485 pounds to 961 pounds. It was approximately 39 inches tall. Its closest relative is the tiger, of course. They originated in North and South America about 10,000 years ago, so it would be extraordinary if scientists found a way to bring them out of extinction. In our number 3 spot we have the Glyptodont. The Glyptodont is a larger subfamily of the armadillo. They were around from approximately 34 million years ago in South America, and when the continents became connected, they spread to North America. They were about 12 feet long and 1.5 feet high. They had fluted teeth and they were covered in a thick bony carapace. They went extinct approximately 7,000 to 8,000 years ago. It's so interesting how much bigger animals were thousands of years ago, and now all of these big animals have much smaller subfamilies that are alive today. I mean, obviously that's better for us humans, as the less threats we have physically, the better, but still interesting to note. In our number 2 spot we have the quagga. Okay, so you're probably thinking, Melissa, is this not just a zebra? Yeah, it is a species of a zebra, but it's still different and it's extinct, and scientists are thinking of bringing it back. The quagga went extinct in the 19th century, and one of the last pictures that we have of the quagga alive is from 1870 in a London zoo. It's a subspecies of zebra from South Africa. It's about 8 feet 5 inches long and 4 feet 5 inches tall. It has a sandy brown coat with a white tail and stripes from the top to the middle part of its body. They were herbivores and would typically live 20 to 40 years. They look, pretty majestic to me. I hope this is a species that scientists are able to bring back. In our number 1 spot, we have the ground sloth. The ground sloth is from South Africa and went extinct approximately 11,000 years ago, and some of the species of ground sloths have been extinct longer. The Megatherium, for example, has been extinct for 12,000 years, and this one in particular looks more like a bear than a sloth. It was massive and could be up to 20 feet tall, weighing about 6,600 pounds. Imagine these sloths were just roaming the world today. There are already enough scary bears in the world. I feel like, we're good without this one. But still, this would be an unbelievable breakthrough if we could bring back these creatures. Although I am sure that they wouldn't be as friendly as Sid from Ice Age. That short, cute little guy wouldn't hurt a fly. His lisp is literally the cutest thing in the world. But anyways, would be cool if they came back.
Coming in number 5 now, we have the Argavantes. These birds were bloody huge, probably second only in wingspan to the Pelagornis that we talked about at number 9. For me though, these things were even scarier. Imagine vultures that stood taller than adult humans. Yeah, now you're starting to get it. They lived between 9 and 6.8 million years ago and had territories of up to 200 square miles. They would fly these incredible distances looking for food. Now, because of its huge size, it's thought that this bird may have actually been unsuited to hunting its own prey and instead lived as a scavenger, taking kills from other carnivores. Just like our giant seagull friends from earlier in the video, scientists have been trying to figure out how this bird was able to fly, as it seems to break the known laws of bird flight, physically speaking. Of course, I'm not saying there are actual laws about birds flying. Skeletal evidence suggests that its breast muscles were not powerful enough for wing flapping for extended periods of time, and that it may have relied on mountain slopes or headwinds to even take off. Moving on to number 4 now, we have the Attacopus. This is an extinct species of arachnids that lived around 390 million years ago. All of you arachnophobes may be glad that it's extinct when you hear about it. It resembled modern day spiders except for the fact that it had a tail. I mean, that's weird enough on a spider, but wait for it, the tail was basically a scorpion tail. That's right, if you've ever wondered how to make a big spider even scarier to some people, put a massive scorpion tail on the back of it. For a number of years after its discovery, scientists thought that Attacopus was the ancient ancestor of modern spiders. Then they rethought their position. There was an important difference between the two. Modern spiders produce silk to spin webs. Attacopus is thought to have also produced silk, but it used that silk to wrap eggs, lay drag lines, or construct burrow walls. It's this key difference that has now led scientists to believe that Attacopus is probably related to the ancestor of modern spiders, but is not actually a spider itself. Next up, number 3 now, we have the Purosaurus. I need to make an apology here at this point in the video. In a previous video, I described a creature known as the Sarcosuchus as the giant crocodile. I have since learned that there was more than one giant crocodile that used to exist. There were actually quite a few. The Purosaurus was one of them. It's the second largest giant crocodile to ever waddle the earth. It lived across South America about 8 million years ago. This monstrous beast had a very big, stout, robust head full of large shaped teeth that could snag prey and never let them go. The region it lived in is now made up of the Amazon rainforest, but back then it looked very different as it was actually part of a vast inland sea. That sea was full of giant crocodiles, whales, huge rodents and massive turtles. Despite the size of the prey and the competition there, Purosaurus was the top predator, and when you see the size of the reconstructions they've made, you can see just why. Moving on to number 2 now, we have Camarasaurus. This is thought to be the giant ancestor of the giant squid, so it was pretty giant. It first appeared in the fossil records during the middle of the Ordovician era, around 470 million years ago. It had a huge cone-like shell to protect itself. Of course, as you might expect for an ancestor of this squid, it had big old tentacles for catching its prey. Thought to be between 20 and 30 feet, it was a formidable predator. It's thought they were stalkers, ambushing their prey that moved across the sea floor. You may think it would be difficult to be sneaky with a 20-foot cone on your back, but that was also the reason it had to ambush, as the cone would have made chasing prey too difficult. Some scientists actually think that for the biggest of these creatures, they never even moved. They just sat in the dark at the bottom of the ocean waiting for their next meal to pass by. And finally, number 1 now, we have Megalanis. This creature is essentially the great granddaddy of the Komodo dragon, an impressive sized modern creature, but it had nothing on this ancestor. They weighed over 1 1,300 pounds. That's more than 10 times the weight of an average human being. They also grew to almost 18 feet long. The Megalania almost made it to the modern era as well, dying out just 50,000 years ago. If you look at when some of the other creatures on this list went extinct, 50,000 years ago is basically yesterday. They lived and died out in Australia, which means the earliest Aboriginal people may have lived alongside them. With enough coordination, they may have been able to take them down, but it would have been risky. One bite from this creature would be enough to cripple even the most experienced early human hunter. When you hear about ancient creatures like this, it's no wonder that ancient cultures so often mention dragons existing. They kind of really did.
Starting off this countdown, we have the California condor. The California condor is the largest vulture and land bird in North America. From tip to tip, its wings stretch about 10 feet. It's got a big wingspan. They also can fly as high as 15,000 feet in the air. Now these vultures used to live all throughout the southwestern US into northwestern Mexico, but during the 20th century their population started to decline due to pesticides, poaching, and loss of habitat. By 1987 there were so few left that scientists declared them extinct. During that time there were only about 27 or less in the wild. But don't worry, the US government actually helped save these animals. They created a captive breeding program and set it up in a number of zoos across the country. This program is said to be one of the most expensive conservation projects in US history. It cost about $35 million and $2 million per year to keep it up. And slowly but surely they helped increase the amount of condors. As of 2019, their population is at 118. Some of the birds have even been reintroduced into the wild. They are still at risk, but all the birds are tagged and the US are keeping a close eye on them to make sure they never get near extinction ever again. In our ninth spot today we have the Somali elephant shrew. Now don't be fooled, this isn't an elephant, but it does have a long pointed snout like an elephant. It's as small as a mouse and kinda looks like one too, but they aren't actually a shrew. That rhymed. In fact, they are related to aardvarks, elephants, and manatees. You heard me correctly. These tiny little creatures are related to elephants and manatees. How? I don't understand nature. Anyways, the last recorded sighting of this creature was in the 1970s. After that, scientists declared the species extinct. That was until August of 2020. A team of researchers were out doing studies when they came across these tiny little creatures. From there, they decided to try and see how many elephant shrews were left in the wild. So they set up more than 1,000 traps with a tasty treat of peanut butter, oatmeal, and yeast inside. In total, they came across 12 elephant shrews of the same species. Now, thousands of these little guys are back and are no longer threatened or in danger. Moving on to number 8, we have the Bermuda petrel. This is the second rarest seabird on the planet. In fact, it was last seen on Nonsuch Island in 1620. They literally thought it was extinct for over 300 years. They went extinct because their habitat was destroyed by sea erosion and hurricanes. But then in the 1950s they were like, surprise! No, we're here to stay, we're just playing. So in the 1950s their nest was spotted east of Bermuda with a few birds nearby. In 1951, 36 of these birds were rediscovered, and as of 2021 their population is increasing. The government created new nesting sites for these seabirds, and as of spring 2020 there are a total of 134 breeding pairs. We went from 18 to 134. Hell yeah. But according to conservation officer Jeremy Madrios, he said, and I quote, "It's an ongoing recovery, an example for threatened species around the world in an era when encroachment on and destruction of habitats is putting more species at risk than ever before." Well spoken. In our 7th spot today we have the horned marsupial frogs. These little guys are so freaking cute. Like, just look at them. They have like weird pointy eyeball horns. But its eye horns aren't the only thing that makes this frog pretty weird. Its eggs develop in a pouch on the female's back, and when they hatch, you got fully formed frogs instead of tadpoles. That's pretty unusual for frogs. Anyways, these frogs live in the tropical rainforest in Ecuador, but due to habitat loss from oil palm crops, timber, and mining, the frogs went extinct around 2005. They were declared extinct for 13 years until 2018 when they made a comeback. Since extinction, they now have a population of 350 with 18 new species. Moving on to number 6, we have the takahi. The takahi are flightless birds that are native to New Zealand. They honestly kind of look like peacocks without the big colorful feathers. It's because they have the same bluey greeny colorway. In the 1890s, their population began to decline due to hunting, competition for food, predators, and habitat loss. By 1898, they were declared extinct. But then, 50 years later, a small group of them were discovered high in the Murchison Mountains. As of 2019, the population is 418. It is said to be growing at a rate of 10% per year. Slowly but surely. In fact, the rediscovery of this bird inspired New Zealand's longest running endangered species program. It's been in the works for more than 70 years now, with plans to make sure that this animal or any other animal never becomes extinct again, as well as they help save endangered species.
Starting off at number 10 now, we have the Megalodon. Megalodon was the biggest shark that ever lived. They went extinct about 2.6 million years ago. Scientists think they could have grown to an insane 60 feet in length. That's about 3 times as long as the largest great white shark ever found. Here's how big they are. Before modern science identified them as a prehistoric species of shark, people used to think the Megalodon teeth they'd found were actually dragon tongues. Others said they belonged to giant serpents, or even that they were rocks that had fallen from the moon. Just think how big and scary you'd have to be for people to think that your teeth belonged to dragons or outer space. It used to feed on prehistoric whales, and unlike modern sharks, which go for the soft underbelly of their prey, Megalodon just went for the whole thing. They would bite down on the whale's chest with some 41,000 pounds of force, the strongest ever recorded, and simply crushed the whale's chest cavity and organs. They didn't stand a chance, and unless you're an even bigger whale watching this video, you probably wouldn't either. Next up at number 9 now, we have Phobiromus pattersoni. This was a huge rat. Some scientists have even called it Ratzilla. Technically it wasn't a rat, but if you're scared of them, I bet you'd be scared of this. They reached a whopping 9.8 feet long. Their tails alone could reach 4.9 feet. They had the weight to go with it too, often reaching over 1,500 pounds. Like most rodents, they had big incisor teeth. In the case of Ratzilla though, their incisor teeth were about a foot long. It's a good job they were herbivores and used those teeth for plant life. However, I don't think that knowledge would do much to calm people if they were suddenly seen running around the streets at night. Coming at number 8 now, we have the Titanoboa. Everyone with a phobia of snakes, please look away now. This was a massive snake, thought to actually be the largest that's ever lived. Its name literally means Titanic boa. It lived around 60 million years ago. The largest individuals reached up to 42 feet in length and weighed over 2,500 pounds. That's well over a ton for a snake. It could grow this big because the Earth's climate was a lot warmer back then. As the climate began to cool over the next few million years, only smaller snakes could survive, and snakes like the Titanoboa began to disappear. Probably a good thing for us humans, because we would not want to be running around worrying about snakes that weigh as much as your average rhino. No thanks. Next up at number 7 now, we have Dunkleosteus. This is a fish that lived about 370 million years ago during the late Devonian period. These things were big, growing up to 30 feet in length and weighing over a ton. What's most scary about them is their bite. This fish could bite down on its prey with a force of some 6,000 newtons. That might not mean anything to you until I say that's almost about 4 times the bite strength of a polar bear. This fish could bite your arm clean off you, including the bone. Its jaws were so efficient they could hinge them open and snap them shut in a matter of milliseconds. If we were to bring this species back to life, people might worry about them more than sharks. At number 6 now, we have the Megapiranha. Unlike a lot of scientific names on this list, the Megapiranha has a kind of obvious one. It was a giant piranha fish that lived about 10 million years ago. They grew to around 3 feet long, and unlike modern piranhas, they had not 1 but 2 separate rows of teeth. Scientists aren't even sure how hard they could bite, but some estimates go as high as 4,749 newtons. If that's the case, they would bite more than twice as hard as a hippo. Neither of those sounds fun, but one definitely sounds worse.
We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the tarsier. These are one of the cutest animals to ever exist. Just look at it. It looks like a cute little weird monkey, squirrel, alien thing. Like, I want one as a pet. Anyways, this interesting creature is considered a nocturnal primate, but scientists still don't know much about it. One of the reasons being is that scientists thought that they went extinct in the 1920s. But in May of 2000, while checking a rat trap that they had set up in a forest, scientists discovered that they had actually accidentally caught a tarsier. Sadly though, this little dude was dead. But still, they were like, oh shoot, these creatures are back! Then in 2008, researchers found a family of them in Lore Lindu National Park. Nowadays, it's believed that there are only 5,000 to 10,000 of these animals in the whole world. And that number is sadly falling again instead of rising. It's because these little creatures don't live too long in captivity. In fact, when they are in distress, they apparently try and take their own lives. So that's a reason why it's hard to look after these little guys and keep them off of the endangered list. In our fourth spot today, we have the golden lion tamarin, but I like to call it the golden majestic monkey. Like, look at this thing! Look at its luscious locks. It's got nicer hair than me. Anyways, this orange primate is located in Brazil's Atlantic forest. But sadly, with its habitat being destroyed, the population is at great risk. In the early 1970s, so few of them were alive in the wild that they were declared extinct. But with the help from the World Wildlife Federation, public charities, and 150 zoos, Brazil's government has been able to help these monkeys. There's now a healthy population of them being looked after by zoos all over the world. Plus, they have already breeded and reintroduced around 1,700 of these majestic guys back into the wild. It's sad, but the main threat these guys face is urbanization of the area. They're losing space to call home, and that's what's putting them at risk the most. Moving on, number 3, we have Catagonus wagneri. Now, these animals are weird because just look at them. They look like gray hairy pigs or warthogs, but without the little horns. Either way, I still find them cute. Back in the day, this creature was discovered from early fossil records. Then in 1974, a biology professor from University of Connecticut was on a National Geographic research expedition when he rediscovered these creatures. And they are no longer considered endangered or extinct. A huge population of them live in a 2,400 acre area in Gran Chaco. They hide out in the bushy, thorny areas so that they are safe from jaguars and pumas and local hunters. Another huge population resides in the Tagua Sanctuary at the CCCI Conservation Center. In our second spot today, we have the Tasmanian Devil. Not the dude from Looney Tunes, don't worry, he's still being animated and he as well. Anyways, the Tasmanian Devil used to be found all over the place, but now they are only found on the island state of Tasmania. Around 3,000 years ago, these creatures went extinct because of predation. They were being hunted by the dingo. And then they were hit by the devil facial tumor disease, which is a contagious form of cancer. This spread like wildfire and killed 90% of the population. As a result, they were declared extinct. But over the years, the creatures were reintroduced to wildlife sanctuaries and have been introduced in New South Wales and Australia. This has helped save the population. Plus, the population is thriving in Tasmania, as there are no dingoes there to hurt them. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the coelacanth. The coelacanth, which is spelled nothing like it's pronounced, I thought it would be like coelacanth, but no, I guess not. Anyways, these dudes have the most famous comeback story of all time. These fish were said to have been around when the dinosaurs were alive. That's right, that's how old these dudes are. In the 19th century, that's when scientists discovered a fossil of this fish. The fossils were said to be over 410 million years old. It's said that they went extinct around 66 million years ago. That was until 1938, when they were rediscovered off the coast of South Africa. That has to be the greatest comeback of all time. They still are critically endangered, but the fact that they managed to survive millions of years is absolutely insane.
Moving on to number 5 now, we have Gigantopithecus. In many ways, this creature is what we'd call Bigfoot. It lived between 9 million to 100,000 years ago in Asia and was the largest ape on Earth. They stood about 10 feet tall and their diets were mostly vegetarian. When I say stand, I mean stand in the way gorillas and chimpanzees do. It's thought they walked on all fours. However, a small number of scientists do think they walked walked on 2 legs like humans. Either way, with a 12-foot arm span, you'd be best to stay clear of this giant and unpredictable ape. Next up at number 4 now, we have Helicoprion. This was a shark-like creature that lived some 290 million years ago during the early Permian era. We've seen some very weird creatures on the list so far, but this might just beat them all. The Helicoprion is famous for his spirally arranged clusters of teeth known as tooth walls. This bizarre set of teeth would have reached about 24 inches in length. Moving on to number 3 now, we have the short-faced bear. The scientific name for these is the Arachnid. They first appeared in the fossil records 1.8 million years ago and seem to survive all the way up until just 11,000 years ago. So a pretty close call for us modern humans. One specimen found weighed 2,110 pounds. They stood up to 12 feet tall on their hind legs, about twice the height of the average human male. Their vertical arm reach extended up to a further 14 feet. I could keep giving you guys stats on just how monstrous these bears were. Between those ones and the pictures you're seeing now, I think you get the idea. They were 50% larger than the biggest polar bears in recorded history. Scientists estimate they needed a whopping 35 pounds of meat a day just to survive. If we brought them back from extinction, I'm sure they wouldn't mind human meat being a part of that. Next up at number 2 now, we have the Megalania. Dragonflies are nice, right? They're pretty cool looking creatures you find fluttering around ponds and rivers. They're a little bit freaky if they land on you, but you know, hey, at least they're small. Not Megalania though. This massive dragonfly-like creature lived about 300 million years ago during a Carboniferous period. Its wingspan could reach up to 30 inches, making this thing about the size of a 6-month-old baby. Don't ask me why I'm using a baby as a reference, it's just the best comparison I could find. They reach this size because insects need more oxygen the bigger they are. Back then, the oxygen levels in the atmosphere were higher than the current 20% we have today. This allowed insects, including Megalania, to grow insanely big. You wouldn't need your hand to bat this thing away, more like a baseball bat. And finally at number 1 now, we have Dinosuchus. This is an extinct relation of the modern alligator that lived some 80 to 73 million years ago. That means it was alive at the same time as T-Rex. In fact, it's thought these two actually fought it out back then. They are thought to have been up to 33 feet in length and have weighed as much as 5 tons. It looks like the T-Rex might not have been much of a match for this oversized alligator. There have actually been T-Rex fossils found with massive Dinosuchus bites found in them. Perhaps they were just defending their territories from T-Rexes, or perhaps they saw them as food. Either way, they definitely were not scared of T-Rexes, and so they definitely wouldn't be scared of us. I get the feeling if we brought them back from extinction, that might be where we're heading next.
Extinct bat. In 2019, the Hill's horseshoe bat species were spotted for the first time in 40 years. The bats are home to a Rwandan rainforest. Scientists figured that they were endangered and had gone extinct already, since they hadn't seen them in years. That was until 2019 when scientists were on a 10-day expedition, and they came across these little guys. But when they first captured the bat, they didn't know how great their discovery was going to be. One scientist said, and I quote, "We knew immediately that the bat we had captured was unusual and remarkable. The facial features were exaggerated to the point of being comical. It took them 3 years to then identify what species this bat belonged to. Once they did, that's when they realized that this bat was brought back to life." In our 9th spot, we have Catagonus wagneri. Back in the day, this animal was discovered from early fossil records. They were thought to be extinct and people only knew about them because of the fossils. That was until 1974. That's when a biology professor from University of Connecticut rediscovered them while on a research expedition. In fact, the species was well known to the native people there. However, they are badly endangered. A huge population of them live in a 2,400-acre area in Grand Chaco. They hide out in the bushy, thorny areas so that they're safe from predators and local hunters. Sadly, only approximately 3,000 remain in the world. Moving on to number 8, we have tarsier. Now these guys are undeniably cute. Just look at its eyes, like they're so cute and big for its tiny little body. But strangely enough, scientists still don't know much about them. One of the reasons being is that scientists thought that they went extinct in the 1920s. But in May of the early 2000s, while checking a rat trap that they had set in the forest, scientists discovered that they had actually caught a pygmy tarsier. Sadly, it had died in the trap. But that's what let them know they were still alive, minus that one. Then in 2008, researchers found a family of them in Lore Lindu National Park. Nowadays, it's believed that there are only 5,000 to 10,000 of these animals in the whole world. And that number is sadly falling again instead of rising. Now this is because these little creatures don't live too long in captivity. In fact, when they are in distress, they apparently try to take their own lives. So that's a reason why it's hard to look after these little guys and keep them off the endangered list. In our 7th spot today we have the goblin shark. Now if you all have been a fan of this channel for a while, then you guys know that I hate this guy. Like, I'm not scared of sharks, but this guy, like, he's terrifying. He doesn't even look like a shark. He looks like a mutated shark. Like a shark that scientists tried to cross with a human or something. Anyways, goblin sharks were believed to have gone extinct millions of years ago. That was until 1891 when researchers spotted it off the coast of Japan. Instantly they were confused, but also scared, because again, look at this thing. What they found the weirdest though is that this shark barely changed over time. They didn't evolve at all. They still look the exact same, hence why they are called a living fossil. So these creatures can grow 12 feet long and can weigh up to 460 pounds. But in 2000, they found a giant goblin shark that was 20 feet long. So now researchers say that they have no real idea about how big they can truly get. Now the scariest part about them is that they have these weird ligaments in their jaw, and that allows them to extend their mouths out and snatch up their prey. Plus, their mouths launch out pretty fast. That's also why it makes their mouth look so creepy, you know? In our 6th spot, we have the tequila fish. And it's a very interesting name for a fish. I hope their relatives are called the vodka fish. So these fish disappeared from the Mexican wild in 2003. This was due to pollution and invasive species. People thought there was no hope, that these fish were just gonna die off. But turns out that conservationists were able to bring them back to life after a decades-long operation. Basically, scientists at Michoacán University in Mexico took 5 pairs of these fish in 1998. They then kept the fish safe, studied them, and then they made them reproduce to develop a larger colony. After 4 years in artificial ponds, scientists were able to increase these 5 fish to 10,000. However, only 1,500 were released back into the wild. And apparently the released fish are thriving and reproducing out in the wild.
Kicking off the list at number 10, the Stellar sea cow. Stellar indeed. Okay, the Stellar sea cow was named after George Wilhelm Steller, who discovered this massive creature in 1741 during the Vitus Bering's Great Northern Expedition. They found her right after the crew became shipwrecked. What a lovely surprise to an otherwise horrible situation. They were around over 2.6 million years ago, and they were no match for humans. They only swam about a meter deep, and once humans came into the picture with, hunting and aggression and everything, they were quite easy to hunt. George Steller commented that the animals had an uncommon love for their families, which in turn made it even easier for us to hunt them. Considering the 1-year gestation period, the species just couldn't reproduce fast enough to keep up with our hunting. But this list, we have a little hope now, don't we? Scientists were able to sequence the genome, which could mean we could see the creature again one day. Hopefully. The answer may lie right now in the DNA of a dugong. Dugongs are the cow of the sea. You know what, they're great. Let's have all the cows of all seas back immediately. Number 9, passenger pigeons. The passenger pigeon once ruled the skies over Canada as recently as the 19th century. Billions of these bright orange birds would just paint the skies. They would fly in flocks so large it would block out the sun for a short amount of time. Isn't that beautiful? It's like some Lion King stuff right there. But only a few decades passed and passenger pigeons are now no more. So what happened? Well, the very last passenger pigeon, her name was Martha. She passed away in the Cincinnati Zoo back in 1914. So we took a look at her DNA to see if Martha held any secrets to her extinction. They discovered Martha had a low genetic diversity for such a growing population. Natural selection and hunting obviously just eliminated the coolest looking bird out there by far. A little different than the pigeons we have today, that's for sure. The last one died in 1914, but in 2019 paleontologists found remains of the pigeon protected in indigenous lands in Canada, up in Northwest Territories. They blended passenger pigeon DNA with Archaeopteryx dinosaur DNA. Yeah, we're bringing back pigeons with a hint of dinosaur. What could go wrong? Number 8, the woolly mammoth. It was announced only months ago that a team of scientists and entrepreneurs over at a company called Colossal are planning to bring the woolly mammoth back to life. That's just the thing we need right now in this world. Out of all the problems, we're like, you know what could solve it? The woolly mammoth, for sure. That'll bring jobs back. The Siberian tundra thousands of years ago was once full of these woolly mammoths, but climate change began to slow them down just a little bit. And humans also needed food, so that surely didn't help. These guys provided warmth and, well, look at them, obviously a lot of food. Genetics company Colossal raised over $15 million to try and bring this thing back to life. Honestly, I hope it works, but then, I mean, now what? All these things are great scientifically, but it's like, and then what? Number 7, the dodo bird. Speaking of the devil, we're definitely gonna eat these guys. Dodo birds were once big and beautiful. These flightless ground nesting birds once filled the island of Mauritius, located in the Indian Ocean. They had massive talons, they were big, gray, and blue, and they didn't have any natural predator, which is pretty sweet. They didn't have one until we came along. Around 1507, the island was discovered by Portuguese sailors, and, well, the rest is history. They were the easiest bird to hunt, hence the phrase dead as a dodo. They weren't just loved by sailors either. We're not just 100% here to blame, you know? Monkeys, rats, pigs, any animal that made its way to the island easily had their eggs for lunch. So yeah, it didn't take a long time for the dodo bird population to be completely wiped out. The last dodo was hunted in 1681, but can we bring back the dodo bird? Are we doing it? I think we're gonna do it. Scientists found an extremely well-preserved dodo skeleton back in 2007, so we may have a chance at picking some DNA apart here. A research facility near Melbourne, Australia is currently trying to use pigeon genes to bring this bird back to life. I mean, I'm all for the idea of bringing back an animal. Scientifically, that's a feat in itself, but do we really think nobody's gonna make dodo chicken wings? I'm just saying. That's just a problem waiting to happen. Number 6, Pyrenean Ibex. The last Pyrenean Ibex was a female named Celia. A falling tree sadly killed her in 2000. She was a subspecies of the Spanish Ibex, and the Pyrenean Ibex were native to the Pyrenees Mountains on the border of Spain and France, as her name hints towards. Back in the medieval ages though, their population was reduced drastically to an endangered level. So it wasn't just recently, it was way back, you know, because of, again, hi, we got hungry. They were all over the place, and knights and swords and bows and armies to feed. They were hunted down, sadly. Disease spread by humans also played an important role in their demise during this time. The Pyrenean Ibex was successfully cloned and brought back from extinction for 7 minutes. So we actually did this one. DNA from the last living lady was implanted in the womb of a domestic goat. Lung complications are why the clone didn't last, but listen to what I just said. They made a clone. 7 minutes is a start. I think I could handle a clone of myself for 7 minutes, and then after that I'm tapping out.
We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the coelacanth. You're not gonna believe this, but these fish were around when dinosaurs roamed the earth. In fact, they were believed to have gone extinct alongside the dinosaurs. Then, millions of years later, they were rediscovered. In the 19th century, scientists discovered a fossil of this fish. This fossil was over 410 million years old. They thought they went extinct around 66 million years ago. So it shocked scientists quite a bit when in 1938 they rediscovered them off the coast of South Africa. They're just alive and thriving. In our 4th spot, we have the singing dog. This animal has been named the singing dog due to their distinctive howl. Sometimes they howl together to form kind of like a choir. Apparently their howls sound like a cross between a wolf's howl and a whale's song. They are also called the New Guinea Highland dogs and are closely related to the Australian dingo. Now, wildlife biologists thought that these animals went extinct sometime in the 1970s. However, in 2016 they were rediscovered in a remote region of New Guinea. Tests were run on them and it was confirmed that they were the same breed. In our 3rd spot, we have the tree lobster, which is not an animal, so I'm technically cheating having it on today's list because it's an insect, but who cares, okay? The tree lobster is a large black stick insect. In fact, it is said to be one of the rarest insects on Earth. Back in the day, they were popular for fishing, as they were used for fishing bait. But by the 1920s, they were said to be extinct. Basically, a ship accidentally crashed onto an island and rats aboard the ship got introduced onto the island and threatened these species. But later on, a pair of Australian scientists discovered 24 of these bugs living beneath a single shrub. They ended up taking 2 pairs, breeding them, and then reintroducing more of these insects to help repopulate them. In our 2nd spot today, we have the night parrot. Night parrots are often referred to as one of the world's most mysterious birds. They were first discovered in 1845 and were extremely rare to spot. That's because they come out at night and only in remote areas. Even then, there had not been a single sighting of these birds for 100 years, so they were declared extinct. That was until 1979 when a number of them were spotted again. In fact, this bird is the holy grail for bird watchers. Some spend decades hoping to get a glimpse of this bird up close. And in our number 1 spot today, we had the Kashmir musk deer. But I like to call them the vampire deer because they have vampire fangs. So these deer are native to Africa Afghanistan, India, Pakistan, and western Nepal. It was believed that they went extinct in 1948 until they were rediscovered in 2009. However, they are badly endangered. It's said that there are less than 5,000 musk deer throughout the world. The main reason being is because they are a very popular target for hunters. Hunters like to kill them for their musk glands, which are often used in perfumes. They are said to be a rare aphrodisiac and can sell for around $45,000 per kilogram. Now, it is illegal to hunt for them, but that still doesn't stop people.
Number 5. Tasmanian tiger. Once native to Australia, the Tasmanian tiger, also known as the thylacine, it was a massive carnivorous marsupial that went extinct around the 1930s. Major factors here, as you guessed, climate change, hunting, and its genetic diversity wasn't all too great. It was sad on one hand because these beautiful creatures disappeared so recently, but it's recent enough that we have a shot at bringing them back. So we're like, but maybe. Yeah, imagine looking outside and seeing this thing on your front yard. Are we ready for this? Specimens still remain preserved in jars. Thank God for those jars. About time we open those things up, right? All those jar guys are like, finally, pull this one out. Already we have some of the Tasmanian tiger genes present after scientists inserted them into a mouse fetus. The Australian Museum has been working hard to bring this beast back to life. They're only still lacking the DNA to fully recreate it. So if you have any jars of Tasmanian tiger parts, help us out, hit those thumbs. Number 4, the great auk. Once thriving in colonies off North Atlantic coasts, the great auk would grow to 30 inches long and its tiny wings would be only used to swim. Had little tiny wings. The wings were much smaller. They were about 13 centimeters long, little flappy arms. No wonder they couldn't fly. Look at these things. Oh my God. They were cute, but obviously they were quite defenseless. Around the 1500s, European fishermen discovered this perfect area for hunting, and it just happened to be where most of these great auks were hanging out. Newfoundland looked like the iceberg from Club Penguin, and then we just rolled in and we're like, we are so hungry. It was packed, so they rapidly declined, and by 1950 the last 2 known specimens were hunted by a single fisherman on Eldey Island, just off the coast of Iceland. Scientists plan on using genetic information extracted from their fossils or preserved organs, remember those jars of organs always coming in handy. They plan on editing their DNA in the closest living species, which is now the razor-billed auk. The organization Revive and Restore is behind the wheel on this one, and I'm hoping they pull it through. Number 3, the moa. This New Zealand bird went extinct about 600 years ago. Moa were these flightless birds, massive might I add, and archaeologists first discovered its fossil in a cave. Its flesh and everything was still attached, that's the gross part. These ancient birds would reach about 5 feet tall, and when you think of dinosaurs, you probably think that's quite petite in comparison. These birds stopped flying right after the dinosaurs went extinct. Interesting timing. According to biologist Matthew Phillips from the Australian National University in Canberra, these birds safely roamed the land after they didn't need to make these daring dino escapes in the sky. They walked around, got fat, and would hang out in caves. Honestly, pretty ideal. Phillips says this is an advantage when it comes to birds and evolution because wings, be it big or small, kill energy. So it might seem a little depressing to watch a creature lose the ability to fly, but it's because they're eating good, they're comfortable now. Scientists have now found more moa DNA from ancient eggshells, so it's possible that we may see these fatties soar the skies once again. Number 2, Megatherium. AKA giant ground sloths. That's a bit of a nicer name. Yeah, sloths. Let's bring those back. Wait, they're already here. I'm confused, Taylor. Sloths used to be a lot bigger than we think. We often look at them now for being so slow and silly. The movie Ice Age or Zootopia, they sure didn't help their case. Now, of course, the giant ground sloth is closely related to our modern 3-toed sloth, but luckily for us, today's sloths aren't that big. They're not the same size as an elephant, which is pretty sweet. That would be a horror film. If a giant elephant-sized sloth started to climb that tree, slowly, might I add, I'd be sick. We may be able to bring this one back, although they died off 8,000 years ago. DNA samples were extracted from their hair remains, so the next step now is to develop a fetus in an artificial womb. That's the hard part. That's where science and technology might just do the rest. But as of right now, we've got a pile of hair. We're like, maybe. And finally, number 1, the gastric-brooding frog. I'm a big fan of frogs and toads, all that stuff. Except for when they hatch eggs out of their back. That's arguably the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. We'll maybe show you after, maybe, I don't know. These gastric-brooding frogs would swallow their eggs and then hatch them out of their mouth. So if you watch them give birth in reverse, it would be pretty confusing. That would be a horror film. They went extinct back in 1983, but scientists have figured out how to implant these dead cells into a fresh egg from an entirely different frog species. Let's just hope these new ones aren't born out of your back.
List off in at number 10. Whoa, that guy's fast. What is that? His nose is like so long. Is this real? I don't even know what that is. I don't even know how to research this little guy. Okay, well, apparently that was the elephant shrew, last known to be seen over 50 years ago, but it was rediscovered in August of 2020. These mighty little mouse-like creatures are thriving in Africa. Pretty cool, something so small was able to evade a full extinction. So before we get into number 9, make sure you guys hit the like button on this video because it really helps us out. Alright, let's see what we have in at number 9.
The Tarsier is named... Whoa! Hello there, freaky. The Tarsier is named after its long, impressive bone in its ankle, you perv.
Okay, whoa, what is this little thing? So the animals on this list are pretty tiny. This one is no different. The pygmy chaser of the chaser family of the world's smallest primates hails from the depths of Indonesia. The chaser still lives, but its pygmy's cousin is said to have been extinct, until a man accidentally captured and killed one in a mousetrap in 2000. Since then, several pygmy chasers have been found and tagged in Indonesia, and it is believed that they no longer exist.
Great big, thin, membranous ears, and those sharp teeth. More like those you'd see on a bat.
Okay, wait, first of all, I thought these things were cute, but they're pretty creepy if you ask me. Apparently these guys are adept predators for being able to fit in your palm of your hand. Pretty wild, but anyone else getting like the Baby Yoda vibes from this?
Perhaps it could live many centuries.
Next up at number 8, the terror skink. Thought once to be extinct. Well, this video shows a man who found one in Caledonia in 2018. These little things were said to be the T-Rex of their time. Serious meat-eating predator reptiles. They got their name from their mouthful of sharp teeth.
So this skink is the top predator here on this island in New Caledonia. There's no doubt that this guy is the T-Rex of this island.
Number 7. Is this real life right now? What is that? There's no way that thing existed in our life. Like, what world was that real? And those sharks, to like, when they eat things, their melts come out of their mouths, and it's just like... It's so horrifying. Here's another picture. I mean, it looks like it's real. Apparently these things went extinct many years ago, but now it has been rediscovered. This last picture right here looks so real, and it looks like it's kind of like slimy. And this one doesn't look like it was taken in the water. This one looks like it was captured, it was taken out of the water. But you can see what I'm saying about like the mouth. I'm not sure where it begins and where it ends, but is it just me or is its teeth like exactly spaced out? Kind of creepy, sharp teeth. I'd be scared if I was like swimming and I saw one of these. Okay, so the images that we were seeing is actually the goblin shark. You guys can search it online. You guys can see so many more pictures of this. Well, it was actually said to be extinct over 125 million years ago. But like other deep sea creatures, it didn't actually disappear, it didn't go extinct. It just hid in the depths beyond human discovery, and it is said to be back and is thriving. These pictures were taken from National Geographic in 2020, so just months ago. It was actually in August. So the images you're seeing is legit. Moving right along to number 6, move on murder wasp, Wallace giant bee, or the Megachile Pluto is said to be back in action. In 2018, 2 of these bad boys were available for the highest bidder, and none other than eBay itself, the place where we're buying Pokemon cards. I just came across a Charizard, 25 grand. Should I buy it? Okay, so apparently you can buy this creature, like you can make a transaction if you have $9,000. In 2019, a single female was found in a termite nest and reopened the species as no longer being extinct. Well, here's a clip that I wanted to share with you guys. So 100% authentic and to scale. Okay. Maybe not, but could you guys imagine like that was the size of the killer bees? Like just absolutely massive.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the woolly mammoth. We would certainly be missing a very important animal on this list if we didn't include the woolly mammoth. These guys were of course a species of mammoth, and in fact, they were one of the last in line of mammoth species. Because of the fact that in both Alaska and Siberia there were frozen carcasses discovered, they're actually one of the most well-studied extinct creatures. Exactly Exactly why or how they were driven to extinction is widely debated, and another thing people like to debate is whether or not we should try and bring them back. There was a genome project completed in 2015, and since then it has been proposed that the species could be revived through a few different means, but no one yet has taken a leap. Here's the thing though, there's a new company that is pretty set on de-extincting woolly mammoths, and they have a new investor. This investor is called In-Q-Tel, and they are registered as a non-profit venture capital firm that is funded by none other than the CIA. They claim that the interest in this company is less about mammoths and more about the capability to do such crazy projects. What do you guys think about reviving extinct animals? Are we on board? Are we terrified? Let us know down below in the comments.
Number 9. Passenger pigeons. The passenger pigeon once ruled the skies over Canada as recently as the 19th century. Billions of these bright orange birds would paint the skies, but only a few decades passed and passenger pigeons are gone. They're just no more. Now we have the pigeons that follow you onto the subway, you know? What happened, right? The very last passenger pigeon was Martha. She passed away in the Cincinnati Zoo back in 1914. So we took a look at her DNA to see if Martha held any secrets to her past, and lo and behold, they discovered Martha had a low genetic diversity for such a growing population. Natural selection and hunting eliminated arguably the coolest looking bird alive. Well, not alive anymore. The last one died in 1914, but in 2019, paleontologists found remains of the pigeon in protected indigenous lands in Canada in the Northwest Territories. They blended passenger pigeon DNA with archaeopteryx dinosaur DNA. So that's science for you. We're bringing back pigeons with a hint of dinosaur. What could go wrong?
In our number 8 spot today, we have the western black rhinoceros. The western black rhino was a subspecies of the black rhinoceros, and they made their home in the savanna of sub-Saharan Africa. These guys were unfortunately the victims of poaching, which led to their rapid decline. Isn't that a bit ironic? People got so greedy trying to kill these incredible animals so that they could make money off of them, and now they can't make any money off of them because they killed them all. What a genius business plan. Anyways, this species first originated around 7 to 8 million years ago, and for most of the 1900s, it was the highest population of rhino species. That all changed, however, as from 1970 to 1992, the population of black rhinos in general decreased by 96%. Other than poachers, another main culprit for the decline was farmers who killed the animals to protect their crops that were placed close to rhino territories. The last sighting of a western black rhinoceros was in 2006 in Cameroon's northern province, and sadly the subspecies was officially declared extinct in 2011.
Number 7. The great auk. Once thriving in colonies off North Atlantic coasts, the great auk would grow to 30 inches long, and its tiny wings would only be used to swim. Their wings were about 13 centimeters long, and they were so cute, and obviously, just looking at them, they were quite defenseless. I don't know if you could have picked up on that, yeah. You could probably take them. Very cute, very defenseless, you get it. Around the 1500s, European fishermen discovered this perfect area for hunting. And sadly, it just happened to be where most, if not all, great auks were living. Newfoundland looked like the iceberg and club penguin. It was kinda, dare I say, perfect. Unless you were of course a great auk. You were eating good if you were a fisherman, so the number rapidly declined, and by 1950 the last 2 known specimens ever were hunted by a single fisherman on Eldey Island, just off the coast of Iceland. Yeah, one dude just Thanos the bird population. Nice, what a monster, what a great brunch. Scientists now plan on using genetic information extracted from their fossils, or preserved organs, because some have organs in jars just hiding around. They plan on editing their DNA into the closest living species, which is now the razor-billed auk. The organization Revive and Restore is behind the wheel on this one. You'll see a few names come up over and over on this list, and yeah, not too many companies are trying to bring animals back from the dead.
In our number 6 spot today, we have the Morian viviparous tree snail. This was a species of air-breathing tropical land snails that were endemic to French Polynesia. This extinction was actually caused by a chain of events that happened after something humans did. The African land snail was introduced into Tahiti in 1967 as a food source, but it quickly escaped and began to destroy crops. Biologists wanted to attempt to control the African land snail, so they decided to introduce the rosy wolf snail to the area in 1977. Well, this went absolutely haywire, as the rosy wolf snail didn't just control the population of African land snails, but rather started to eradicate all of the snails that were native to the area, which of course includes our little friend, the Morian viviparous tree snail. So this one little introduction led to them becoming totally extinct in the wild. These snails do still exist in captivity, and there have been attempts to re-release them into the wild, but the rosy wolf snail continues to prey upon them, so at this point researchers are unsure if it will ever be possible for them to live in the wild again.
Moving right along, number 5. What sound does a deer make? Go in the comment section and tell me. I don't know how you're gonna tell me a sound. Like, well, a cow would just be M-O-O-O-O-O. For a deer, I don't know how you type out the sound of a deer, but we're not bringing you just any deer on this list. The Kashmir musk deer has been endangered, extinct, and back to endangered again. I mean, how does this even happen? Is this real life right now? One was discovered again in 2009, and they were back on the endangered list once again, likely because these guys are targeted for hunting because of their musk glands, which are said to be an aphrodisiac and can go for a whopping $45,000 on the black market. And just like that, number 4, these 5-inch freaks are also known as 3 lobsters, and they were thought to be completely eradicated decades ago in a small island off the coast of Australia. But 24 were found in 2001, and they were sent to a zoo in Australia, which has led them to the successful breeding and repopulation of these creatures. Whoa! That's like a stick insect, right? What does that remind you of? It's like I don't know what it is. But it's just so creepy. Okay, well obviously that was the tree lobsters. You know what, it kind of looks like it has like the scales of a lobster. The tree part is like the tree stick thing that I was referring to. Yeah, you guys are seeing a picture right now of those stick insects. They're pretty cool, but I don't know what they do. I don't know much about them. From there, number 3. What the? Is that just a dog? Like this breed of dog went extinct and now it's back and now it's howling for werewolves? It's howling for its werewolf mates? Doesn't sound like a normal dog, so maybe this is like a different creature. Well, this species of dog is actually called New Guinea singing dog and hails from Papua New Guinea. They were thought to be extinct for decades until a pack was discovered in 2016. So there have only been 2 spotted in the wild, but there are some places around the world like the United States that have rescued what is believed to be this breed of dog that went extinct, and now they're in captivity to try to breed them, to expand them. They're clearly known for singing, you know, hence their name, hence the video we just watched. Alright, moving right along, number 2. So many of you guys think that Bigfoot is an urban legend. Well, I know that it's real. Okay, I never saw it, but like I've seen stuff like on TV and I think it's facts. Well, this creature that is like some kind of like half man, half ape that lives a lonely life in the wilderness, well, that video was from 2020 in Utah. It's pretty far away, so it's hard to tell, but I can tell. That's Bigfoot, confirmed. For sure Bigfoot. But if that's how big that thing looks from far away, like imagine how big it is when you're up close. Maybe like 20 feet. All I know is I wouldn't want to come across one. So this video was uploaded August 1st of this year, 2020. If it's not Bigfoot, then what is it? Let me know in the comment section below, what the heck creature did we just watch? And finally, in at number 1. Okay, so that clip is obviously from a movie. If you guys didn't know, I didn't know at first. I thought it was real. But the Megalodon is said to be a real creature, and we couldn't not put this on this list. This is a real and verified clip of what was thought to be a Megalodon underwater filmed in Japan. There are reports that the Megalodon was found a couple years ago in Mariana's Trench, hence the movie, hence the inspiration for the movie. Well, it was found in the Mariana Trench a couple years ago, and there was all the fuss around this creature from some of the well-known sources like Shark Week and obviously Hollywood movies that hyped this creature up. Considering 95% of the ocean has not yet been discovered by humans, it could be very possible that this thing is real in 2020, and there's probably so many other creatures we have no idea about.
Number 5. Megatherium, aka giant ground sloths. How lovely and terrifying is this one? Sloths used to be a lot bigger than we think. Yeah, we often laugh at them for being so slow and funny looking. The movie Ice Age certainly didn't help their case. Now, of course, the giant ground sloth is closely related to our modern three-toed sloth. But luckily for us, today's aren't the same size as an elephant, because that would be a horror film. We wouldn't be alive anymore. I'd be sick to my stomach. If a giant elephant-sized sloth was in that movie, that would be not a family feature film. That is terrifying. That's Jurassic Park now. But we may be able to bring this one back, although they died off 8,000 years ago. DNA samples were extracted from their hairy remains, so the next step is to develop a fetus in an artificial womb. Yeah, that sounds easy, doesn't it? Let's just do that, sure. Let's 3D print it.
In our number 4 spot today, we have the Tasmanian tiger. These guys are actually less like tigers that we're used to, but they're actually marsupials. But not really like the marsupials we know today. These guys are a carnivorous marsupial that was native to Australia mainland and the islands of Tasmania and New Guinea. These guys had anatomy and adaptations that bared similarities to both tigers and wolves despite being unrelated. They were certainly an apex predator at their time, and as of now, their closest ancestors that are still surviving are the Tasmanian devil and the numat. Because of these living relatives, it is thought that scientists might be able to bring back these creatures by selecting certain parts of their DNA and sort of selectively breeding the species back into reality.
Number 3. The moa. This New Zealand bird went extinct about 600 years ago. The moa were these flightless birds, massive and terrifying, might I add, and archaeologists first discovered its fossil in a cave. Its flesh and everything was still attached. They had no idea what they were looking at for numerous years. And to be fair, yeah, it's haunting, it's terrifying. These ancient birds would reach about 5 feet tall, and when you think of dinosaurs, you probably think that's quite petite in comparison to, the scary ones. But the birds actually stopped flying right after dinosaurs went extinct because they didn't need to fly anymore. They didn't need to run for their lives. According to biologist Matthew Phillips from the Australian National University in Canberra, these birds were then safely able to roam the land after they didn't need to make these daring dino air escapes. It's beautiful. They just walked around, got fat, and would hang out in caves, then they eventually died off. Dare I say, the perfect demise. Phillips says this was an advantage when it came to birds and evolution because wings, big or small, they do kill energy. So it might seem a little depressing to watch a creature lose the ability of flight, but well, it's because they're eating good, okay? Good problems. Scientists have found more moa DNA from ancient eggshells, so yeah, it's a possibility we may see these fatties soar the skies once again. They just gotta, shed a few bird pounds, that's all.
In our number 2 spot today, we have the woolly rhinoceros. We talked about another kind of rhino before, but now we have a woolly one. I didn't even really know that these ones used to exist. These guys were a species that was quite common in Europe and Asia during the Pleistocene, and they survived up until the end of the last glacial period. These guys were an animal that is seen depicted in cave paintings, and we have even discovered their bones and remains that were mummified and preserved in permafrost. These guys were stocky and they had a thick woolly coat which helped them survive in the cold tundra environment. In 2020, there was actually one of the best preserved remains of one of these animals ever found, which is a remarkable scientific discovery, but it has now prompted the questions about possibly reviving the species.
And finally, number 1. The smartest of them all, the biggest, baddest, the dodo bird. Dodo birds were once big and beautiful. They once filled islands all over the Indian Ocean. They had massive talons, they were gray and blue, they didn't have any natural predator, it was great. And then humans came along. Nice, way to go. Put that thumbs up for just f***ing up everything possibly around us. Around 1507, the island was discovered by Portuguese sailors, and yeah, the rest is history. We can probably figure out what happened there. It was delicious, dare I say. They were the easiest bird to hunt, hence the phrase, dead as a dodo. They're kind of stupid. They weren't just loved by sailors either, they were not 100% to blame here, okay? Monkeys, rats, pigs, any animal that made its way to these islands easily had their eggs for lunch, and they were pretty big. They were nice. Over easy. So it didn't take a long time for the dodo bird population to be completely wiped out, because, you know, yum. The last dodo was hunted in 1681, but could it be? Could we bring back the smartest dodo bird? Possibly. I don't really want this to happen. It'd be terrifying, but it might. Scientists found an extremely well-preserved dodo skeleton back in 2007, so we may have a chance at picking apart some DNA. A research facility near Melbourne, Australia is currently trying to use pigeon genes to bring this bird back as well. So yeah, I can't wait for dodo bird chicken wings. That's gonna be a nice combo. Number 4. Ooh, number 3. Definitely number 3.
Let's start off at number 10 now with the dodo. The dodo is one of the most famous extinct animals of all time, responsible for coining the phrase as dead as a dodo. The last of these birds was thought to have died out in 1662. They were only found on the island of Mauritius in the Indian Ocean. They lived in harmony with the ecosystem there and had no natural predators until humans arrived and killed them off for food. Scientists discussed the possibility of bringing back the dodo from extinction during a TEDx discussion in Washington DC in 2013. The dodo's closest living relative is the Nicobar pigeon, and some say that one of its eggs could be fused with the cell of a dodo to create a living dodo. Imagine if that happened. It would ruin that phrase. Next up at number 9 now, we have the mammoth. Now this is perhaps the most famous extinct animal of all time. Society has been obsessed with these woolly elephant cousins for decades. Interesting fact for you guys, although most of them did die out about 10,000 years ago, a small population of mammoths survived on Wrangel Island off the coast of Russia until just 3,600 years ago. That's nothing if you think about it. Humans were running around at the end of the Bronze Age during then. Anyway, because of how recently they died out and how many of their bodies became frozen in the permafrost, scientists have actually been able to extract cells from mammoth remains. The plan is then to splice specific mammoth genes into the genome of an elephant embryo to create a sort of mammoth-elephant hybrid with all the mammoth traits we recognize. Now this isn't just for no reason either. Some scientists say that these new mammoths could help prevent tundra permafrost from melting and releasing huge amounts of greenhouse gas into the atmosphere. Moving on to number 8 now, we have the thylacine. This species died out in the 1930s after being hunted to extinction in its native Australia. It may look like a dog, but the thylacine actually belonged to the marsupial family and was a relative of kangaroos and koalas. A group of Australian scientists led by Michael Archer have previously worked on bringing back the thylacine from extinction. They called themselves the Lazarus Project. Their efforts only managed to capture some of the fragments of the thylacine DNA though, and not enough for a true clone. Still, even this was enough for people to see the thylacine as a strong candidate for eventual de-extinction. Next up at number 7 now, we have the gastric-brooding frog. This little frog was native to the eastern coast of Australia and went extinct less than 100 years ago. It got its name from its interesting method of reproduction. The females would swallow their fertilized eggs, which would then hatch into tadpoles in the frog's stomach before being vomited out into the water. It sounds gross, but it definitely worked. Because of how recently they went extinct, scientists recovered enough genetic material to create living embryos. They haven't been used to create an actual gastric brooding frog yet, but some argue that even this means they are already back from extinction. Moving on to number 6 now, we have the bucado. The bucado was a wild goat native to the Pyrenees. The last one, a female named Celia, died in January 2000. Scientists preserved her cells and attempted to bring the species back from the dead. They injected the nuclei from Celia's cells into goat eggs that had been emptied of their DNA. They then implanted 57 of them into different goat surrogate mothers of closely related species. Only 7 of them became pregnant and 6 of those had miscarriages. One of the goats successfully gave birth to a clone though. Fernandez Arias held the newborn calf in his arms. He said it was struggling to breathe and all of their attempts to help failed. The calf died just 10 minutes later. It was found to have a faulty lung caused by a genetic defect. At the time, it was the closest the world has ever come to de-extinction and still remains a possible candidate. Starting off at number 10, we have the Javan tiger. This tiger subspecies was native to the Indonesian island of Java. It was a lot smaller than its Asian cousins on the mainland. Now despite this, they were no less scary to the local people there, who would respectfully call them Mr. Tiger in case one of them was ever listening. As the human population there swelled in the early 20th century, the Javan tiger retreated to the mountains where they preyed on deer and wild boar. That's where the last ones were sighted in 1976, and despite huge searches for them since then, it's thought they went extinct not long after. And next up at number 9 now, we have the sea mink. Have you guys ever heard of or seen in real life a real fur mink coat. They used to be very popular. The thing is, they were made from the fur of the sea mink. This creature was native to the coasts of Maine and New Brunswick. They were longer and bulkier than other mink species, which made their coats almost twice as big. Because of this, they were hunted to extinction somewhere between 1860 and 1870, meaning any mink coat you see made from a sea mink is going to be pretty old indeed. Moving on to our number 8 now, we have the great auk. This flightless bird lived in the colder parts of coastal Canada, Greenland, Iceland, and other European fringes. It might look a bit like a penguin, but it really wasn't. These things mated for life, they lived in dense colonies and laid just one single egg on a bare rock. They lived alongside humans for about 100,000 years, but by the early 20th century their numbers were dwindling. In a cruel twist of fate, museums wanting to preserve their eggs for display only sped up their extinction, and the last one was seen in 1852. Coming in at number 7 now, we have the Tacopa pupfish. This tiny critter could only be found in 2 single hot springs in the Mojave Desert in California. They were trapped there when nearby lakes evaporated over the past 10,000 years and had lived there ever since. They were small, just over an inch or so in size, but were incredibly heat resistant. They could quite happily live in waters of up to 43 degrees Celsius or more. Sadly, being good with heat isn't everything when it comes to survival. Humans modified the area around them to build bathhouses at the springs and inadvertently introduced invasive fish species as well, leading to the Tacopa pupfish being declared extinct in the early 1970s. At number 6 now, we have the Puyuli bird, also known as the black-faced honey creeper. The Puyuli bird was discovered in Hawaii for the very first time in 1973. One of the reasons it took so long to discover them was just how small the population was. In 1980, scientists estimated the population to be just 140 birds. With such small numbers, it seemed they really started to suffer from human development in Hawaii. They lost their territory, they were eaten by human-introduced mammals such as cats, and died to new diseases. The last wild Puyuli bird was seen in 2004, and tissue samples were taken to potentially clone it back into existence in the future. Moving on to number 5 now, we have the quagga. The quagga is an extinct subspecies of the plain zebra and lived in South Africa. The last wild quagga was hunted to extinction in 1878. The last captive one died in Amsterdam 5 years later. Now, because of their close relationship to the plain zebra, some scientists have created the Quagga Project, which is attempting to use selective breeding to create a new subspecies that strongly resembles the quagga. In 2016, the project announced they had 6 individuals showing the preferred pattern. The goal is to have 50 of them and then move them to a protected area for continued breeding. Will this count as the quagga being brought back from extinction? Let me know what you think. Alright, moving on to number 4 now, we have Steller's sea cow. This sea mammal was discovered by Europeans in 1741 on Bering Island in the northern Pacific Ocean. It went extinct just 27 years later after being hunted for its meat, fat and hide. It belonged to a group of species known as Dugongidae. The only surviving species of that group is now the dugong. Some scientists hope that if enough sea cow DNA can be recovered, they can fuse it with the egg of a dugong and bring back the sea cow from extinction. One major problem though is size. Modern dugongs are just a fraction of the size of the extinct sea cow, so the pregnancy would be extremely difficult. Let's just say that. It's a problem that's still being worked on though. Next up at number 3 now, we have the passenger pigeon. Okay, this one might not be as cool as some of the other animals on our list, but give it a chance. In the 1860s, there were billions of these pigeons across North America. One account said that a flock once passed over southern Ontario that was a mile wide, 300 miles long, and took 14 hours to pass overhead. Less than 50 years later, they were extinct, mainly due to mass hunting. Enough specimens have been preserved so that scientists could reconstruct the bird's entire genome. The plan would then be to fuse this with the egg of the passenger pigeon's closest living relative, the band-tailed pigeon. However, there is no guarantee that the band-tailed pigeon will then tend to the egg or even look after any successful hatchlings. Next up at number 2 now, we have the auroch. About 10,000 years ago, the prehistoric settlers of India and Eurasia domesticated the auroch, an animal that looks a lot like a cow. That's because all modern day cattle are the descendants of the auroch. The auroch itself went extinct in the wild, but scientists are hoping to bring it back through back-breeding cattle. This is where they breed cattle together that resemble the auroch. They then take the calves that most resemble the auroch and breed them, etc., until eventually you get something that looks a lot like an auroch. One example of this that's already happened is heck cattle. Here's some pictures of of them now. However, some people have debated whether these even really look like auroch. They're also a lot smaller too. Maybe they will get there one day though. And finally, number 1 now, we have the Carolina parakeet. This bird was hunted to extinction 100 years ago. It was native to the eastern US, which surprised me because its plumage would suggest it was much more tropical. Its feathers were also the reason it went extinct. Many of them were hunted so that the feathers could be used in women's hats, which were fashionable at the time. Some remained as pets or in captivity, but eventually they all died out. Now, as with many others on our list, their extinction being quite recent is a reason why they could make a good candidate for de-extinction. Some people worry though that if it was brought back, history would just repeat itself all over again, as their feathers would instantly become valuable. Moving on to number 5 now, we have the Canarian oyster catcher. The Canary Islands off the coast of West Africa are home to many amazing species, and the oyster catcher used to be one of them. Now, as you guys might guess from its name, it ate oysters and other shoreline creatures. It went extinct sometime before 1940 for a number of different reasons. Firstly, humans overfished its food source. It also got attacked by rats and cats, and finally, humans absolutely loved the taste of their eggs. Unfortunately, too many eggs were eaten. Okay, coming on number 4 now, we have the round island burrowing boa. As its name suggests, this snake loved to burrow down into the soil on its tiny home of Round Island just off the coast of Mauritius. It grew up to 1 meter in length, was light brown with black spots, and had a pointed snout. It was thought to have eaten lizards but suffered habitat loss by soil erosion due to overgrazing there by goats and rabbits. It was last seen in 1975. You see, sometimes it's not just humans who make things go extinct. Goats are kind of to blame as well. Not really. Alright guys, next up at number 3 now, we have the Mexican grizzly bear. You guys might picture grizzly bears living in the American mountains or Canadian wilderness, but for a long time they had cousins in Mexico. They reached up to 6 feet tall and could weigh over 700 pounds. Now, for the most part, the bears and the humans avoided each other in this area, but when bears started killing cattle, the farmers considered them a pest and encouraged people to hunt them. Hunting them was banned, but by 1950, only 30 of them were left. The hunting continued, and the last one was thought to have been sighted in 1964. Alright, moving on to number 2 now, we have the bulldog rat. Look at this chubby little thing. Some people found it cute, other people found it kind of scary. Either way, it used to thrive on Christmas Island, 1,000 miles off the coast of Australia. It wasn't the actual size of a bulldog, but it was bigger than the rats we know today, coming in at a whopping 17 inches in size. They lived almost alone on their island for thousands of years with no known predators. It became extinct at the start of the 20th century, presumably from diseases carried there by European rats on ships. And finally, at number 1 now, we have the Falkland Islands wolf. Their home was the Falkland Islands in the South Atlantic, where it was the only native land mammal there. They were not scared of humans at all, but humans saw them as a threat to their sheep. They were easily lured to people by simply holding out a piece of meat, and they were then killed. The Falkland Islands wolf didn't learn to not be trusting of humans and became officially extinct in 1876. Well, extinction is pretty sad in a way, but I do have some good news for you guys though. The Baiji dolphin that I mentioned in part 1 to this video, well, there's actually rumours that it might not be extinct after all. There was a recent sighting. I will keep you guys updated on that. If you want me to do a part 3, let me know. If you do, I'm Danny Burke. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Want to see more videos like this one? Check out this video next. Viewer discretion advised. It's about disturbing real-life demon photos that you won't believe are real, but have been confirmed by the Pope himself. Click the video now to find out more. See you guys in the next video.